Hey everyone, it's Books That Here. Welcome back to the channel where we delve into the fascinating world of, well, you guessed it, books. Today we're diving deep into the realm of psychology, but don't worry, there won't be any pop quizzes. We're going to explore 8 common psychological traps that can secretly sabotage our decisions, relationships, and overall well-being. Ever wondered why you stick with bad habits, make irrational choices, or get fooled by your own brain? Well, these insidious psychological traps might just hold the answers. So buckle up, hit that subscribe button, and let's unravel the mysteries of our own minds together. Let's kick things off with a concept that often trips us up: exponential growth. We're used to thinking linearly, like, if I walk 1 mile a day in a week, I'll have walked 7 miles. Makes sense, right? Imagine folding a piece of paper in half. Do it again and again. After just a few folds, you'll struggle to fold it anymore. The thickness increases exponentially. This concept applies to investing too. Invest $1,000 with a 10% annual return. After the first year, you earn $100, bringing your total to $1,100. The next year, you're earning 10% on $1,100. Over time, those small gains start to snowball, creating massive results. Even small, consistent efforts can lead to remarkable outcomes in the long run. Let's talk about a psychological trap we've all fallen into: the sunk cost fallacy. This bias tricks us into sticking with something just because we've invested in it. I'm guilty of this too. Remember those shoes I bought? They looked amazing online but were uncomfortable. I wore them despite the pain, just to justify the money spent. Eventually I donated them, but not before enduring unnecessary pain. The sunk cost fallacy keeps us stuck in bad situations. Ask yourself, is this worth my time, energy, and sanity? Sometimes cutting your losses is the best decision. Get ready for a mind-bending ride as we explore the conjunction fallacy, a trap that highlights our brain's quirky relationship with probability. This fallacy tricks us into believing that 2 events happening together are more likely than 1 event happening on its own. Sounds counterintuitive, right? Well, our brains love to find patterns and create stories, even if those stories defy basic logic. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're driving down the road and you get a flat tire. Now, which of these scenarios seems more likely? A, you got a flat tire, or B, you got a flat tire and there's a construction zone up ahead? Most people would instinctively choose option B, assuming that the flat tire is somehow connected to the construction zone. But here's the thing. It's statistically more probable for a single event, a flat tire, to occur than for 2 specific events, a flat tire and a construction zone, to occur together. The conjunction fallacy often leads us astray in everyday life, influencing everything from our investment decisions to our judgments about other people. Understanding this fallacy can help us make more rational choices by reminding us to focus on the base probability of events, rather than getting caught up in elaborate narratives. Have you ever been so focused on one thing that you completely miss something else happening right in front of you? Well, you're not alone. Our brains have this amazing yet limited ability to focus our attention, and sometimes, this selective attention can lead to some pretty hilarious and sometimes alarming oversights. Enter the infamous invisible gorilla experiment. In this study, participants were asked to watch a video of people passing basketballs and count how many times the players wearing white shirts passed the ball. Seems simple enough, right? But here's the catch. During the video, a person in a gorilla suit walks right through the middle of the action, thumps their chest, and walks off screen. Amazingly, about half of the participants completely missed the gorilla. They were so focused on counting the passes that their brains simply filtered out this unexpected visitor. This experiment perfectly illustrates the power of attention and how it shapes our perception of the world. We often miss things, not because they're not there, but because our brains are wired to focus on what we deem important at that moment. So the next time you're so engrossed in your phone that you walk past your best friend on the street, remember the invisible gorilla and the power of attention. Ever notice how your decision-making skills seem to deteriorate as the day goes on? You start the day full of energy, ready to conquer your to-do list, but by the evening, you're faced with the agonizing dilemma of choosing between ordering takeout or just eating cereal for dinner. Let's be real, we've all been there. Well, my friends, this phenomenon has a name: decision fatigue. Our brains, like any muscle, can get tired after making a constant stream of decisions throughout the day. And when our decision-making muscles are exhausted, we tend to make poorer choices, opt for the easiest option, or avoid making decisions altogether. This is why, for example, experts recommend making important decisions earlier in the day when your mind is fresh and less susceptible to fatigue. It's also why supermarkets strategically place those tempting candy bars near the checkout line, knowing that our willpower is likely depleted after a long shopping trip. So, the next time you need to make a big decision, try to tackle it in the morning when your brain is firing on all cylinders. And maybe skip the candy aisle at the grocery store. Let's face it, group projects can be a mixed bag. Sometimes they're a breeding ground for procrastination, unequal workloads, and the dreaded free rider problem. This phenomenon, known as social loafing, describes our tendency to exert less effort when working in a group compared to when we're working alone. Think about it. Have you ever been assigned a group project and felt like you were doing the lion's share of the work? Or maybe you were the one who slacked off, knowing that your teammates would pick up the slack. It's a common human experience, but that doesn't make it any less frustrating, so why do we do it? Well, social loafing often stems from a diffusion of responsibility. When we're part of a group, our individual contributions feel less noticeable, and we may feel less accountable for the overall outcome. But don't worry, there are ways to combat social loafing. Clearly defining roles and responsibilities, setting clear expectations, and fostering a sense of ownership and accountability can all help to motivate individuals within a group setting. Remember, teamwork makes the dream work, but only if everyone is pulling their weight. Our brains are wired to seek patterns, make quick judgments, and rely on intuition. And while this intuitive thinking serves us well in many situations, it can also lead us down some pretty illogical paths. Our instinctive responses aren't always aligned with sound reasoning, and sometimes we need to slow down and engage our critical thinking skills to avoid falling prey to logical fallacies. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're presented with the following statement. All dogs are mammals. Fido is a mammal, therefore, Fido is a dog. Seems logical at first glance, right? But if we break it down, we can see the flaw in this reasoning. While the first two statements are true, the conclusion doesn't logically follow. Fido could be a cat, a horse, or any other type of mammal. This example highlights the difference between intuitive logic and formal logic. Our intuition might tell us that Fido is a dog because we associate dogs with mammals, but formal logic requires us to consider all possibilities and follow the rules of deduction. So, the next time you're faced with a seemingly simple logic problem, take a moment to pause and analyze the information carefully before jumping to conclusions. In the age of social media, it's easier than ever to fall into the comparison trap. We're constantly bombarded with curated versions of other people's lives, their highlight reels, their perfectly filtered photos, their seemingly effortless successes. It's enough to make anyone feel inadequate, right? But here's the thing. Social comparison is a natural human tendency. We're wired to size each other up, assess our place in the social hierarchy, and seek validation from others. The problem is, when we constantly compare ourselves to others, we set ourselves up for disappointment, envy, and a whole lot of self-doubt. Let me share a personal example. A while back, I was interviewing assistants, and I couldn't help but compare each candidate to the others. Candidate A had an impressive resume, Candidate B had glowing references, and Candidate C had a knack for organization that put my chaotic tendencies to shame. I found myself caught in a spiral of comparisons, focusing on each candidate's strengths and feeling increasingly insecure about my own abilities. It was only when I took a step back and reminded myself that everyone has their own unique strengths and weaknesses that I was able to break free from the comparison trap. Remember, comparing yourself to others is like comparing apples to oranges. So, there you have it. 8 common psychological traps that can secretly sabotage our lives. But here's the good news. By becoming aware of these traps, we can start to recognize them in our own thoughts and behaviors, and ultimately, make more conscious, rational, and fulfilling choices. Remember, our brains are complex and often irrational, but with a little bit of self-awareness and a healthy dose of skepticism, we can navigate these psychological pitfalls and live happier, healthier, and more fulfilling lives. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the depths of our minds. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more bookish adventures, and let me know in the comments below which psychological trap you find yourself falling into most often. Until next time, happy reading.